Hello and welcome to the Armenian News Network Groong. I'm Asbed Bedrossian and I'm here with Hovik Manucharyan. This episode was recorded on Friday, October 20, 2023. In this Conversations on Groong episode, we'll be talking about Iran's perspective on global and regional developments. We'll discuss how Iran sees itself within the evolving geopolitical multipolarity of a new world order and its relations with countries in the South Caucasus, the Middle East, Russia, and other world powers. For this, we are joined by Dr. Ehsan Movahedian, who is an international relations specialist, ATU University in Tehran, Iran. He focuses on multidisciplinary research about digital diplomacy and politics. Hello and welcome to Groong, Dr. Movahedian. We appreciate you joining us.
Hello there.
Hello, and I hope we can enjoy a good conversation and your audiences enjoy it.
Thank you, the same here. Since this is your first time on our show, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your profession?
Okay, it's Ehsan Movahedian, PhD of International Relations from Allame Tabatabai University in Tehran, Iran. And I also teach there, and I also lecture there, and I teach courses that related to Caucasus matters, Caucasus security, economy, and politics of the countries of that region. And I also have some researches about this field, and sometimes I have an interview with Iranian media on this matter.
Thank you for coming on our show as well.
My pleasure.
All right, let's hit our topics. Many experts are calling the current period of turmoil and upheaval in the world to be the ending of the post-Soviet era, and the world reordering from a unipolar one back to a multipolar order, especially with the emergence of China and India, and their increasingly assertive and dominant presence on the world stage. Can you tell us how are the regional and global geopolitical shifts changing Iran's relations with the world as well as our region?
You see, the main agenda of Islamic Republic and the main memo of Islamic Republic was that no to the West, no to the East, just Islamic Republic. That this is famous slogan of Islamic Republic that represents the main theme of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And after the collapse of Soviet Union in 1991, Iran find out that it is a chance for Iranian Islamic Republic of Iran that can promote this idea. And as you know, Iran considered its revolution that can be a kind of a global attempt to change the world order. So as you see, Iran sees Russia and China changing policy in the world as a leverage to help Iranian system and Iranian agenda to succeed in the world. And the recent changing in the global politics, and as you see that the agenda of the United States in the world and the China and Russia answer to this agenda is helping Iranian political system to advance its agenda and its goal in the world. And I think that in coming years, Iran has the chance and has the opportunity with the help of Russians and Chinese to organize a front to compete with United States and European Union and the ongoing challenges in Israel, for example, in Caucasus, for example, in Taiwan and Africa, in different parts of the world, shows that we are at the beginning of a widespread conflict in the world that Iran plays a special role in this conflict.
A few months ago, there was a surprise revelation of a thaw in Saudi-Iranian relations under Chinese auspices. This caught most of the West and certainly the United States by surprise. Should we view this shift within the context of Iran's global realignments? How does Iran see its strategy evolving in the Middle East and also towards Turkey?
What happened in our relation with Saudi Arabia was the result of a comprehensive Iranian policy towards Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia thought that it can force Iran to accept its idea and its policy all around the world. You see that we have Saudi Arabia along with Turkey, they are our main competitors. So Saudi Arabia tried to push back Iran, but it didn't succeed. So Saudi Arabia understood that if Saudis crowns looking for progress, if they try to increase themselves economically, politically, they have no other chance but to work with Iran instead of try to collapse Iranian regime. So they changed their mind and they understood that there are new main political powers, political superpowers in the world. So they try to work with Iran instead to compete with Iran. But it's a tactic. We have to say that it's a tactical change. It's not a strategical change in their policies. So right now they want to work with Iran along with China to increase their power, to preserve their power, to increase their capabilities, their capacities. So in the near future, they can compete with Iran in different fronts. So we have to wait and see what's going to happen. So even Saudis, even Turkey, Erdogan understand that they cannot compete with Iran in the way that they were accustomed to. So right now they are trying to work with United States as well as Chinese and Russians, and Iran also understands this. But there are some points about Turkey that I am going to tell you further.
So do you think that the current phase is more towards cooperation instead of competition between the two countries?
Yeah. Right now, because of the incident in Palestine, because of the Israeli aggressive policies, because of the problem that Ben Salman has with Biden, and because of some other factors, right now I think Saudis want to work with Iran more closely. But in near future, after Biden and after the Israeli-Palestine conflict is finished, we'll see that maybe Saudis, they change their mind.
Well, speaking of that conflict, probably the biggest foreign policy headache for Iran right now is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For decades, Iran has championed the rights of the Palestinians to become a state and to be represented in the United Nations. But in the past few years, the Palestinian cause has all but disappeared from the agenda of the Middle East. What were the causes for this recent ignition of the all-out hostilities in Israel? It seems like it caught everybody by surprise and exploded out of nowhere.
It wasn't a headache for us, it's an opportunity for us. The point was that all countries in Arab world, they were leading to a point that the challenge of Palestinian was going to finish, was going to be out of the mind of the all politicians in the Arab world. So Palestinians needed to do something to help them, to make them understand this problem, to make them to come back to the realities of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So Hamas did something that it's named the 9/11 of Israel. But I think it's so bigger than 9/11. So as you saw the situation, the Palestinian resistance group did something that was unprecedented in the history of Israeli occupation in the region. They passed all the intelligence, all the military equipment of Israelis. They advanced in the territory that was occupied by the Israelis. There are hundreds of hostages from Israeli citizens. So they proved that they can make Israelis to accept the supremacy of Palestinians. This is something that was so important. So this is an opportunity for us. We are in a superior situation right now with Palestinians, and we can force Saudis, we can force Turkey, we can force many players in the Middle East to accept our idea, to accept that what Iran was saying during this decade, that was the right thing. And we can make them to understand that we can make Israelis accept our ideas and accept the idea that they must respect the Palestinian rights. So right now, Iran we are in a very good shape right now. We can ask other Arab countries to work with us, to cooperate with us. This is something that's so new for us because during these years. Arab world wasn't so happy to work with us. They were thinking that Iran is a player that want to stop them from progress. You see, you understand what I'm saying about that. They prefer to work with Saudi Arabia. But right now, you see the flag of Iran everywhere. Everybody that protests against Israeli aggression, they carry the flags of Iran, but no other country, just Palestinian, Iranian, and sometimes Turkey, but no other countries.
So within this context, your foreign minister, Abdollahian, went to Syria and Lebanon last week as the conflict started spreading further. What were Iran's main objectives for this visit?
Iran wants to say that if you want to escalate the war, we have many options to confront with you. Iran wants to say to Israelis that if you want to escalate the war, there are many proxy groups in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq that want to confront with you, and they have capabilities, and they have weapons, and they have many options in Iraq, in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen. And you see what happened last night by Houthis in Yemen. So they had they drones, the missiles flight over Israeli warships toward Israel. So this is a clear message that we want to say that if you want to escalate the war, if you want to invade Gaza Strip through its land, if you want to make the people in Gaza Strip to flee from the region, we can make you to change your mind. This is the thing that I think Amir Abdollahian wants to say to Israelis and to United States.
In the past few years, various Arab countries have been negotiating and signing bilateral agreements with Israel without ever mentioning the Palestinian cause. Prime ongoing example of this being the US-promoted Saudi Arabian-Israeli so-called normalization. Mm-hmm. How does the current conflict affect these negotiations or agreements? And is Iran supportive of such agreements?
Of course, Iran never supports such an agreement, and I think this negotiation right now is over because of the Israelis' aggression, and you see how they attack Palestinians, how they kill Palestinians. They don't accept any kind of international regulations. You see they kill people in hospital, they attack churches, they attack mosques, they attack civilian people. So, and you see the reaction of Saudi Arabia, the reaction, even Turkey. You see Erdogan want to balance its relation with Israel and Palestine. Erdogan helps Israelis with different supply, but when he talks, he says that we support Palestinians. Even Erdogan, that's never been committed to many things, even Erdogan right now changed his mind and support Palestinians. And even Bin Salman said that what Israel is doing in Palestine is against humanity. So I think for a period of time I think in short term and in mid term, I think any kind of peace negotiation, bilateral, multilateral negotiation with Israelis is over. And the stance of Iran against Israel right now is in the upper hand.
Seeing what is happening in Gaza, I can't but not recall the similarities between what was happening in Artsakh. And of course, the conflict in Palestine and Israel is truly as intractable as the Armenian and Turkish and Azerbaijani conflict. And there's a lot of animosity to go around. I mean, all sides. You mentioned that what the Iranian stance on Israel is. There has been a lot of focus today on both sides, whether it's indiscriminate bombing of hospitals, or alleged, or if there's deliberate targeting of civilians. Both sides use the attacks against civilians to their advantage, to their propaganda. And I don't want to turn this into a both-sided question. Please don't misunderstand me. Can you say what you think about the human cost of this conflict? What should be done to avoid civilian casualties? Because they are, unfortunately, they are enormous now, and it seems like with the if Israel continues its invasion into Gaza, then this will only increase.
This is also something that we are really worried about. That what we have to understand that if at this time, if Israeli can succeed in Gaza Strip, if they can force the people out of the Gaza Strip to Egypt or other Arab countries, The Palestinian fate and destiny is very similar to the people of Artsakh. If Israeli can force people of Gaza Strip out of their homeland, they can demolish the resistance movement of Palestine forever. And after that, Israelis advance through Egypt, advance through Syria, through Lebanon, try to destroy any kind of resistance movement in the region. And this leads to what happened in Artsakh. Palestinian people have no other option. If they want to survive, they have to fight for freedom, for their destiny, and the right of independence.
Ehsan, I want to come back to our region.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Iran is one of the biggest neighbors of Armenia, and as such, it has an important role in Armenian foreign policy.
Yeah.
And I believe you're the first Iranian expert on our podcast, so we want to understand what experts in Iran think about Armenian relations. But let's begin with the outcome of the 44-day war in Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh in 2020. Which seems to have shifted Iran's policy towards the South Caucasus from a long-term passive mode to an increasingly active state of affairs. If you don't agree with that characterization, let me know. But it seems like the Iranians were much more passive before. Prior to 2020, for almost 3 decades, Iran had enjoyed a quiet and peaceful border with Armenia and Artsakh.
Yeah.
And I can assume only that such a peace was fundamentally based on some kind of a trust between leaders of these countries or this region. So what was the exact source of trust between Iran, Armenia, and Artsakh? Why was there relative peace in these areas before the 2020 war?
First of all, I have to tell you that we have an Armenian community in Iranian society that we enjoy them because of their manner, because of their good ethnics, because we have a good memory of Armenians in Iran. You see, we owe you many things. We owe you our cinema, our music, our art, our industry. Iranian Armenians are so cooperative in Iranian society, so they are lovely people. This is the first point I have to mention, because we have good memory of Armenians in Iranian society, and we enjoy them in our society. This is so important. The other point is that when Artsakh was in the heart of Armenia, we had no security problem, nothing happened in these borders. Iran doesn't need even a soldier to keep these borders. Right now, you see what is happening in these borders. Iran must do a lot of military maneuver to keep these borders safe. So this thing is so important for us. And I think that Iran, I agree with you that Iran had a passive policy toward Caucasus, and we are right now, we are paying the price of being passive in this region. And it was somehow a policy of ignorance about the Caucasus. Iran was focused in Middle East, in Iraq, in Israel, in Palestine, and didn't pay attention to the developments in Caucasus. And because of that, right now Israelis are there, Turkey, the military agents are there, and United States and NATO are trying to influence the region to harm Iran, to harm Russia, to harm China. But right now the situation has changed. Iran understands that this ignorance, this wrong policy had many consequences for Iran's security, for Iran economy, for Iran's territorial integrity. So Iran has changed its policy, but I think the speed is not enough, and we must work together so hard to make Iranian officials to speed up these developments.
So you mentioned tensions with the border. Are there any wider-reaching consequences of the 44-day war that Iranian policymakers are thinking about?
First of all, it's security that I mentioned to you. The second point is economy. Because of that, Iran is in danger of losing its border with Armenia. And in losing our border means that we lose a corridor from Iran to Armenia to Georgia to Europe. And it means that all of our borders in northwest of Iran, will be controlled by Turk countries, but Baku by Turkey. So it's a real danger for us. So they can geopolitically they can put us under pressure, and they can impose their policies against us. We can understand it. So from the point of economy, so dangerous. The other danger is the separatist group that Baku support them, Turkey support them. They try to change the mind of Azeris in the provinces in Iran, to make them, to work with them, to unite with them. And the other point is cultural problems, cultural challenges, that it has security implications for us. As you see, Turkey and Baku are trying to present themselves as a symbol for Azeris Iran, to tell to Iranian Azeris that you have affiliation with us, not with other tribes, not with other Iranians. They want to say to them that your origination is from Turkey and Baku. You have nothing to deal with other Iranians. This is something that, as you see, this is a cultural phenomenon, but it has security implication for Iranians. So from different aspects, we are really worried about what's going on in this part of the world, and about its security, its economic, and its political challenges for Iran.
I also wanted to ask about Iran's policy with regard to Artsakh.
Mm-hmm.
We, of course, remember that when the 2020 war happened, there were congratulations even from Iran to Azerbaijan for liberating its territories. But now, I want to see what the sentiment in Iranian top circles is with regard to Artsakh now that it has been ethnically cleansed completely, and people who for thousands of years were under indigenous land are no longer there. And to be honest, I, for one, don't see how Armenians would return there. How does Iran view the rights of Armenians to return, the rights of Armenians to live on their own land, practice their own religion? And, let's put aside the issue of Artsakh independence. For us, many of us, it was a surprise at the level that Iran officially even congratulated Azerbaijan. But, we know there are nuances there. But how can Iran be involved in helping the people from Artsakh to return and to live on their lands? And do you know if there's anything in the high-level discussion between Iran and Azerbaijan regarding this?
First of all, you see that right now nobody congratulated Azerbaijan for advancing and capturing the Stepanakert. So you understand that the atmosphere in Iran has changed. At that time, that was the situation was different, because many people were surprised. Many people didn't understand what's happening in the region. Many people didn't understand that this is a widespread, a clear threat to Iranian national interest. And I have to tell you that we have a pan-Turk lobby within the country that works in favor of Baku and Turkey, and somehow I can tell you that they misled Iranian officials. So, and we have to consider that at that time, Iran was so involved in the nuke negotiation with West, and at that time, Iranian authorities, they were thinking that if we can solve our problem with the United States, we can solve our regional problems, and they didn't think that this is something that it's an emerging challenge for them. This was misled for us, but this is something that happened, and right now we cannot talk about it. And we have to consider that according to international, many countries in the world, and according to many international regulations and conventions and so on, they consider Artsakh part of Baku. And Pashinyan asserting that Artsakh is part of Baku. So when they say these things, we cannot say that we disagree with them.
Yeah.
So this is the main point. When your government work like this, we cannot help on this. But
in Armenian, there's a saying that Nikol Pashinyan put the tongue in Putin's mouth when Putin said, it was Pashinyan himself that recognized Artsakh as part of Azerbaijan. So, and we all, I myself at least, agree with that sentiment. It all begins from Armenians. But just to clarify, is there anything that you think that Iran can do to facilitate the fundamental right of people to come back and return to their own land, because there is such thing as the right of Palestinians to return. Iran is very adamant about that. How about the right of Armenians to return?
I think first of all, we have to organize these people. Right now, I think that there is no program, there is no schedule in Armenian society to use the potential of this community to change the situation in Armenia. First of all, we have to enjoy the capacity of this community within the Armenian society, change the atmosphere of the society of Armenia. You see, the last time I was in Armenia, it was the last winter. I thought that when I come to Armenia, I see the slogans that support Artsakhi people. I thought that everybody in the streets talk about this problem. In television, everybody talks about this. But I was really surprised that nobody talks about this. I really surprised. After I left the airport, I just saw a banner, a small banner near the airport that it was written Artsakh. Some people in their stores, they had the flag also. But, if it's so important for Armenians, you have to support it. When you don't support it yourself, how we can help you? We had problems to sending humanitarian aid for Artsakhis through Iranian border to Maghreb. I know that. When we cannot help you and we have problems in sending our humanitarian aid to you, how we can help you? I think first of all, we have to think that how we can organize these people. Maybe we can build some buildings for them in the border with Iran to help that this can help us to keep our borders with you. And after
that would be a very actually interesting idea if Iran helps build communities in Goris, especially because the people from Artsakh culturally are very close to Sunni.
I know that Iran wants to do that, but your government is not helpful on this. Iranian construction companies are ready to work with you to build houses, to build complexes for these people, to make them to live in Guris, in Sionic region. If we can increase the population of Armenian people in this region, we can help you to keep your borders with Iran. After that, we can think about that how we can use this capacity, this potential to help these people to come back to their home and to keep their culture. But the main point is that your society must be helpful and must be united about these things. But I think right now, the Armenian society is not united. Even the Armenian community in Iran is so surprised. I think that they are shocked. They don't know how they can answer to these developments. And we have to advance and think these things and try to solve these problems. And after that, we can think that how we can help these Artsakhi people to organize them, we can organize them to come back to their home in near future. But I tell you that first of all, we have to organize them in Sunni to enjoy their potentials.
Ehsan, how concerned is Iran that Israel is leveraging its alliance with Azerbaijan to install itself right on its borders?
We are really worried about these things because we know that every time the Baku regime captured and seized some part of Armenia, after that they transferred some Israeli, some NATO elements, unfriendly elements to the borders of Iran. And according to Ministry of Economy of Baku, right now there are 12 Israeli corporations that are working on Artsakh, and we know that the name is the Economic Corporation. But we are sure that they do the espionage activities and they do intelligence activities in these parts. And we are really worried about it. So if the government of Armenia will be helpful, we can work together to stop these things. But I told you that your government is not helpful on these things. We are really worried about these things. We warned the government of Aliyev about these things, but they don't pay attention. But right now, the developments in Palestine I think it's helpful about that because we can put Aliyev regime under pressure that if you want to continue this thing, we have many different options to stop you. I think that with the help of Armenians, we can work on these things. But I told you, your government has a different policy. They think that they can work with Israelis. But this is something that really harmed the Armenian society, because Israelis they never have constructive policies toward the countries in the region. If you review the history, you understand that.
Ehsan, that's a good segue into the next question that I wanted to ask. You know, since the 1990s, since the independence and breakup of the USSR, Armenians thought that Armenia could act as a gateway between the East and the West. We have big diasporas around the world. We also have diasporas in Russia, Iran. So, you know, Armenians really saw that they could leverage their status as diaspora in order to help East and West communicate. I think that more and more is becoming, as this sort of turbulence in the world affairs, you know, there seems to be even more in this environment of animosity between East and West, specifically Russia. It's very difficult to see that. But I wanted to ask, you said that the Armenian government is not very helpful, and I'm going to continue in that direction. The current policy of the Armenian government appears to be shifting away from a partnership with Russia towards deeper integration with the EU and the West. Most recently in Strasbourg, Pashinyan said that the Republic of Armenia is ready to be closer to the European Union as much as the European Union considers it possible. Armenia also, as you know, invited European monitors to observe the border with Armenia and Azerbaijan, and claiming that this is an important part in its efforts to secure peace with Azerbaijan. Russia views these moves with suspicion, and I believe so has Iran. Can you describe in more detail the policy of Iran towards the apparent shift of Armenia towards the West, and specifically also maybe the presence of the EU monitors in the region?
As you see, Iran doesn't like this policy. Iran clearly warned Armenian officials that if you want to help NATO and Western countries to participate in maneuver in Armenia, if you want to facilitate their presence in Armenia, it's not helpful, and we don't like this, and we even confront it. I think that our European Union, United States, these countries don't pay attention and don't care about the territorial integrity of Armenia. They just look to Armenia as a country to be present there, and through the land of Armenia, they can confront with Iran, with Russia, and even with China. So this is a dangerous and false policy that maybe lead to change the situation in Armenia and make Armenia a second Syria. So I think your government must change its policy and understand that the real friend of Armenia are Iranians, and after that the Russians and the East countries. Because we care about the territorial integrity of Armenia. We care about keeping Armenia. Armenia must work with countries like Iran and Russia and China. And through this cooperation, we can improve our economy. We can improve our role in the international order. But I am really worried that if your government trying to pursue the policy of integration with West, it leads to the Syrianization of Armenia. This is something that really I'm really worried about. That if you try to continue this policy, maybe Russia reacts so harshly as we saw it in Ukraine, in Georgia. So I hope that your politicians consider these things.
Ehsan, one more question about this topic. We have heard in various media that Iran has made multiple proposals to Armenia to jointly secure the Sunni region. There have been reports about proposals for military exercises, for military cooperation. And according to the reports, Armenia has not taken the extended hand that Iran has offered. Can you tell us how true these reports are to the best of your knowledge, and how is the Armenian response to this received in Iran?
As far as I know, and as far as I'm concerned, Iran asked for joint military maneuver with Armenia. Iran asked Armenia that if they have any kind of needs in the field of military weapons, Iran can offer. I don't know what was the exact reaction of Armenian government. I think that your government is not going to expand its cooperation with Iran so widely because of the pressure of United States and Western countries. But I told you, but the point is that nobody can help you but just Iran. How India can help you? What was the reaction of India to the development in the region? Nothing. What France reaction? I think the reaction of France is just condemning and releasing a statement. But in the field of military, I think France just cares about confronting with Russia through Armenia. They don't pay attention to territorial integrity. Iran has offered many things to Armenia. Of course, we have some challenges in economic cooperation, but in the field of military, Iran is ready to expand its cooperation. I think if we start just a limited joint military maneuver together, many things, the situation is going to change. The ambitions of Turkey is going to finish. The ambitions of Baku is going to finish. But it depends on your government. Iranian side is ready. We are waiting to hear good news from your government.
Ehsan, speaking of territorial integrity, Azerbaijan and Turkey have repeatedly indicated that they want to change the borders in the South Caucasus by force, if necessary, to their advantage. While Russia has made some statements that it disagrees with border changes and says the right things about Armenia's sovereign territory, everyone knows that it has been Iran's very powerful and repeated messaging that encroaching on Armenia's borders will cross Iran's red lines. What are the key Iranian national interests in the South Caucasus?
Our national interest, the first point is security. If we lose our borders with you, the South Caucasus will be a place for separatists, for NATO, for Israelis, for any kind of anti-Iran elements. So this is the first important thing for us. The second point is it's about the economy. I told you, we lose our safe corridor through Georgia and through Europe, and we lose a safe gate to the Caucasus and to Central Asia and to Russia and China, of course. And our interests in the region will be in danger. So it's so important for us to keep these 40-kilometer borders with you.
I'm going to pose a contrarian question, especially in light of the recent escalation in Israel, in Palestine and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So we hear about your mention of red lines, and we hear that what you're saying is that the Armenian government needs to accept the extended offer from Iran in order to help its security. But let's say that that does happen. Let's say that we have a government in Armenia that cares very much about regional cooperation and cooperation with Russia and Iran.
Mm-hmm.
My worry is that for many Armenians, the Russian policy towards Armenia is a little bit unfair, because we know that even during the Soviet times, the southern border of USSR was viewed as a front line, and the official military policy was to actually even install all the most important bases in Baku and Azerbaijan and so forth in northern Caucasus, to allow this, if there's an attack, to pull back. So that basically means that Armenia is in a demilitarized zone and potentially expendable in terms of, if there's something that happens, if Russia has to retreat for whatever reason, militarily or geopolitically, then it will retreat its forces. Now, how important is Armenia for Iran? Because we've seen the offers, we've seen the talk, but could Iran do anything else to indicate the strategic importance of Syunik and Armenia for its own security? And if, God forbid, if the situation in Palestine and Israel escalates, is it possible that Iran would be so preoccupied, even right now, even without let's say, the foreseen developments of our relations, would it be possible that Iran would be so preoccupied that Turkey and Azerbaijan would be able to accomplish what they want, and Iran couldn't do anything about it? Essentially, is this a tactical importance for you, or do you see a more strategic role for Armenia in Iran's security framework?
Yeah, right now, keeping our borders with Armenia safe is a strategical thing. It's not just a tactic for us. It's so important for us. And you see, when Iranian supreme leader talk about something, it means that it has the highest priority for Iranian officials. So I have to tell you that for Iran, it's so important to keep its borders with Armenia. Iran wants to keep its borders safe with Armenia, and the preoccupation with the developments in Israeli-Palestinian conflict never leads to for us to forget that what's going to happen in the Caucasus, and there are many implications for that. Recently, Iranian Supreme Leader delegate in Baku has changed, and he was appointed to a religious position in Iran. In the meeting of his start of work, Iranian Supreme Leader represents I don't know whether you know him or not. He said that he attacked Baku for supporting Israel without mentioning the name of Azerbaijan. This is so meaningful that in this kind of inauguration, Iranian officials that are related to Iranian leader talk about these things. So I assure you that it's not tactical. Iranian military is working in our border with Armenia, with Baku, and they are ready and prepared for any kind of confrontation. And if they want to cut our border with Armenia, I am sure that they will react accordingly.
Just this past February, Iran stated that it is targeting bilateral trade with Armenia at the level of $3 billion per year. It went up sharply in 2022, but it's still under $500 million a year. It's been over 30 years since Armenia's independence, and Armenia, as part of the EAEU, the Eurasian Economic Union, it represents a large market for Iranian products. Why aren't the two neighbors trading in the many billions already? What are the stoppers, in your opinion?
This 2020 war was so bad, but the only benefit of this war was to understand that how much we need to work together in the field of economy, culture, education, military, security, etc. So in the field of economy, the point is that some Iranian merchants, some Iranian economic institutions, they were thinking that Armenia is a small market for them. And why we have to focus on this small market. But after the war, the situation has changed because Iranian government changed his mind, and Iranian government knows that the Armenian market is a gate for other markets in the Caucasus and in the Central Asia. And this is something that recently happened. And if we want to increase our economic relations because of the problems that Iranians have, for example, the economic sanction of the United States and the limitation of these sanctions, we have to do some things. First of all, we need to establish a joint bank or any kind of financial mechanism to bypass United States sanction and not to harm you. So this is so important. And the second thing is that we have to establish joint free trade zone together so we can produce different products with the help of Iranian and Armenian elites. This is so helpful. We can, through this initiative, we can also bypass United States sanction and enjoy the capabilities of Iranian and Armenians. And we have to accelerate the joint economic cooperations in the field of gas, in the gas pipeline, in the field of energy, in the field of mining. And the other point is that we have to try to establish some joint educational institutions, some joint universities to make the people of Armenia, of Iran to understand that we have many similarities. As you know, Baku and Turkey pursue the idea of two countries, one nation. Okay, we have to pursue the idea of two countries, one civilization, because we have many similarities in different of civilization, cultural similarities, even religious similarities. Because Iranian must know that the version of Christianity in Armenia has many similarities with Shia Islam. This is something we don't work on it. We have to work on these things that will lead to economic cooperations, military cooperation, security cooperation, and political cooperation.
You talked about gas pipelines, and I quickly want to bring this up because when in the 2000s the Iran-Armenia gas pipeline was being built, Russia, I believe, at that time intervened in order to decrease the diameter of that pipeline, basically enough so that the gas only met Armenia's internal consumption needs, and it would not allow for pumping enough gas to export to Europe. Do you see that policy of Russia changing, especially with regard to the North-South corridor and other economic projects? What, besides, let's say, railway communications, which I think we'll talk about with regard to the Rush-Astara railway, but besides that, what other communications are being built, whether it's electricity, whether it's gas, whether it's transport? How important is for Iran to go through Armenia for these communications?
I think Russia gradually changed its policy toward the Iran-Armenian relations. I have to mention that before these developments, Russia preferred to work with Turkey in the Caucasus because Turkey economy is bigger than Iran. They had some leverage to influence Russians in the field of military, in the field of economy. But because of Turkey aggressive policy against Russia, and because of Turkey cooperation with NATO and United States, I think Russians gradually are changing their policy. But we have to understand that the Russian policy is so complicated. There are different lobby groups in Russia that work in favor of Baku and Turkey, and it's so hard to change their mind. And the other problem is that, as you know, Russians don't solve problems with hands. They prefer to change to watch the situation. They never do the right thing on the right time. And when the situation is so complicated, they try to solve the problem with a hard power through military aggression. This is something that happened in Ukraine, and I hope this time in Armenia they behave in a different way.
Yeah, more proactive.
I hope they will be more proactive. And in the field of economy, I told you we can start many joint projects in the field of mining, in the field of exchange of gas and electricity, in the field of trade exchange. But the point is that Iranian trade workers and Armenian trade workers are not so familiar together. We have banking problems. We have corridor problems. You know that the roads that connects the two countries together are so narrow road that they are not suitable for trucks to pass these roads. And we see that the speed of construction is not good at that part of your country. We need railroad in that part. I think that was Manucharyan that tried to make Chinese to accept that invest about $5 billion in Syrian region to start a railroad, but Pashinyan stopped it. So I think we need to work together more closely in different economic projects to solve these kind of problems.
So, Ehsan, has Iran reconciled with the current reality that to connect with Russia, it must go through Baku, especially when it comes to rail, or is it purely economically driven as it is connected right now?
I think the point about corridor is that Iran wants different roads through different countries to make other countries that accept Iranian policies. About the railroad, you said Iran has 4 main roads through its border to Caucasus and Central Asia and Europe. The first road is through Incheburun in Golestan province in east of Iran near the border of Turkmenistan. The other road, the corridor road of Iran, is through Caspian Sea to Russia. Then we are going to finish our railroad through Qazvin to Rash to Anzali port, and this leads to a road through Caspian Sea is directly to Russia and Kazakhstan. The third road, the third corridor can be through Armenia. Right now is narrow road, but we have to expand it. The fourth one is through Baku, the Astara Railroad that I think it's not going to finish within even 10 years because it has many complicated challenges. This pass enjoys a widespread forest. There are many farmers that working on their lands in this part. Iranian government must buy their lands from them, and I think the farmers doesn't accept these things so easily. And the investment in this railroad is a complicated matter. Russia said we will invest on it, but I'm not sure that whether they want to do this or not. And this railroad has many people are against this railroad because they say that if we connect Iranian railroad through Astara to Baku, the railroad of Baku is an old one that its capacity is limited to 2 or 5 million ton per year, and it's not going to answer our needs. And I think this is not an important matter. If Iran and Armenia works together to absorb some investment from China and Russia, we can make a railroad through Mehri border to Armenia, to Georgia, and to Europe. But the point is that Russians are worried about Pashinyan policies. I think they are not going to invest in such a project. And it depends also on Pashinyan to convince Russians to work and invest in such economic initiatives.
It also probably depends on Georgians' willingness to open the Abkhazia railway to Russia because
yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's we always talk about Armenia's lack of investment in strategic projects, and I think this is really important. So I appreciate your focus on this as well. Let me switch topics again because we're getting towards the end of our show. But of course, Armenians are very much aware of this situation. But I wanted you to explain this to maybe someone who's non-Armenian or someone who's Armenian but doesn't understand the sensitivities that Iran is faced with. There are millions of ethnic Azeris in north of Iran. And we even saw, like during the 2020 war, that some were on the border cheering for Azerbaijan to win. Provocatively, Ilham Aliyev has started calling these lands southern Azerbaijan, or maybe not Ilham himself, but various semi-official circles, and the people as South Azerbaijanis. Where is this headed, in your opinion? And how, in reality, how do ethnic Azerbaijanis in Iran feel towards an independent Azerbaijan to the north of them?
First of all, about what happened in 2020, I have to assure that at that time it wasn't. People weren't aware of what is happening in the region and the result of this war. That was because of a kind of ignorance in our society. The people were thinking that they are our brothers in Azerbaijan, and these are their lands. They want to take it back. So they were happy, and Iranian media, we tried so hard to make them understand, but at that time we didn't succeed. Right now, after the developments in the region, Israeli came to the Baku, and the rhetoric of Aliyev against Iranian territorial integrity and his anti-Islamic policies against Shia people, against any kind of opposition group in society, The understanding and awareness in Iranian society has increased. And I have told you that Azeris of Iran, they love their country so much. They are a minority in Iran that we call them Pan-Turks, that they are loyal to Turkey and Baku. It doesn't mean that it's a widespread Iranians who are supporting the idea of disintegration. These kind of people, mostly they are cyber army of Baku and Turkey, that even they are not Iranians, when they try to write something in Farsi in Twitter or Telegram on servers, we understand that they are not Persians. They are Baku agent, they are Israeli agent, they are Turkey agent, even maybe sometimes I think they are agent from some European countries, that they want to say that we are Iranians, we are Azeris, but they are not. After media campaign in Iran, the general awareness of the developments in South Caucasus drastically increased. So right now, it's not something important for us. I remember that when Iran said that we want to start a military maneuver in our border with Baku, these Pan-Turks said that we confront with you, we never let you to reach the holy borders with Azerbaijan, we will stop you, but nothing happened in reality. These are fake people in cyberspace. I don't want to tell you that they don't exist, they exist. They are some kind of people in some Azeri provinces of Iran that they are pro-Baku, pro-Turkish, but also this doesn't mean that all of them want and pursue the policy of disintegration with Iran. They are really a minority, and Iranian society has a history of confronting with this kind of challenges, and we don't consider them a serious threat for our territorial integrity.
Ehsan, as we close our show, I wanted to ask you, given its resources, Iran should have been a much greater and wealthier power by now. But ever since the revolution in 1979, Iran has lived under one regime of Western sanctions or another. From Iran's perspective, what are the reasons for this? And what is Iran's strategy for exiting this lifestyle of Western sanctions?
You know, Iran during these 40 years tried to design a unique package of lifestyle for itself and for the world. Iran say that we have answer to many problems in the world. Iran considered the international world order that designed by the United States after the Second World War unjust and cruel, and Iran says that this kind of design and this world only cannot solve the problems. And Iran says that the Western sanction is the result of our resistance against this world order. This is a long story if you want to talk about it right now. I'm just telling you the general theme of that.
Sure. So, I also agree that we could have an entire show on this.
Yeah, it's a very complicated thing. I have to talk about that. But the result of this idea is the Western sanction that started 30 days before my birth. My whole life has been under the Western sanction. More than half of the Iranian society have lived under the Western sanction. But you see that we survived because Iran enjoys old and enriched civilization. So Iran policies that is trying to convince the world that this world order doesn't work any further. Iran says that we can give you the framework for a new world order, and Iran is trying to work with China, with Russia, with Brazil, with Indonesia, Malaysia, with different countries in the world that understand this situation. With the help of them, we are trying to design a new world order. I think this works if some neighbor countries participated in this idea and in this framework. And Armenia is a country that we count on it so much because you see what is happening right now in Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We see the Armenian stance against it. We see that you support Palestinians. We see a sense of Christianity in Armenia that is against Israeli aggression. and we can start economic joint initiative together. And if Armenian government change its mind and participate in this initiative, I think we can try to start a new world order that is helpful for us and for Armenia and many other countries in the world.
All right. We're going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Movahedian.
My pleasure to talk to you. And I want to tell you something. We need this kind of things to improve. We need, for example, documentary filmmaker from Armenia to come to Tehran to be in the Iranian society, to show to Armenia the similarity of the two countries. These kind of cultural exchanges in the field of art, in the field of cinema, in the field of music, help us to increase our knowledge about the society of Armenia and Iran. I think you can start such initiatives because you are so familiar with your society, and in Iran we are really helpful on this, and we enjoy. Recently, a group of documentary filmmakers from Armenia were supposed to come to Tehran. I don't know why they canceled that, maybe because of that one. I think you have to pass the shock of the Artsakh happening, and you have to. I don't know. I know it's so hard for you, but you have to awaken your society.
Yeah, hopefully some of our listeners will take you up on your suggestions, and we will certainly love to have you again on our show.
My pleasure to talk to you.
And Ehsan, definitely, if any of your colleagues are listening to this, we need to have more exchanges between Iranian experts on our podcast as well. So we extend our invitation to everyone. Thank you.
My pleasure. I hope that you talk with more Iranian experts on your show.
Okay, that was our show. We hope you found it informative. Please find us on social media and follow us, like us, subscribe to us, and so on. You can find our links on our profile pages. Thanks, and talk to you soon.